The storm had settled over Briar Hollow like a heavy, unspoken warning, the kind that muted the world and made even the trees outside Dr. Mara Ellison's small-town clinic seem to hold their breath. A single lamp glowed in the reception area, casting a thin stripe of gold across the rain-streaked windows. Most nights, Mara would have already locked up and headed home to the old farmhouse she'd inherited from her grandmother. But tonight wasn't most nights. The shepherd, rescued from a roadside ditch by a highway ranger, lay on the exam table with a stiffness that had nothing to do with physical injury. His coat was soaked and matted, but it was his eyes that held her captive. Deep amber, rimmed with exhaustion, yet frighteningly alert. Too intelligent, too aware. Mara dried the fur around his paw and leaned closer to the faint symbol burned into the leathery skin. Not a scar from a trap, not an accidental injury. This had been carved with intention, etched by something sharp, then burned to seal it. A circle, a diagonal slash, and beneath it, a tiny mark that almost resembled a number. The shepherd flinched when she brushed her thumb against it. Not violently, more like an involuntary memory passing through him. "Easy," Mara murmured in the soft voice she reserved for animals who'd learned to expect nothing good from human hands. "I'm not going to hurt you." He stared back at her, chest rising slowly like he understood. The clinic door creaked open. Mara turned. Deputy Rowan Hale stepped inside, rain dripping from his hat brim and shoulders. He carried the tired look of a man stretched thin by too many night shifts and not enough kindness. "He giving you trouble?" "No," Mara said quietly. "But something's wrong." Rowan approached, boots heavy on the tile floor. The shepherd's eyes flicked toward him, or more accurately, past him, and the dog tensed like someone had jammed a live wire under his skin. Rowan noticed. "He's scared of me?" "Not scared," Mara whispered. "He's evaluating you." Rowan frowned. "It's a dog." "No," she said. "It's a dog who's been through something." Rowan pushed his hat back inside. "Ranger said he found him out by Old Quarry Road. Same stretch where those gunshots were reported a few weeks back." "You didn't tell me that." "You were already busy patching up that cow from the Rogers farm. Didn't want to add more to your plate." Her eyes narrowed. "You should have told me." Rowan hesitated. "Mara, just look at this." She angled the shepherd's paw toward him. Rowan leaned down, squinting. "What the hell?" "For now," Mara said, "let's call it a brand." He exhaled sharply. "Christ, someone did that on purpose." "Yeah." The clinic hummed with the sound of the storm. Rowan rubbed his jaw, thinking, "I'll file a report. Maybe cross-check the symbol with any local cases. Could be gang-related, or some kind of breeder marking their stock." "Stock?" Her voice hardened. "He's not a product." Rowan raised both hands. "I didn't mean—" The shepherd snarled. Just one sharp, low sound, but it rooted both of them in place. His lips barely pulled back, and yet the message was unmistakable. Rowan took a slow step back. "Okay," message received. Mara laid a calming hand on the dog's side. "He's not dangerous, just protecting himself." Rowan muttered. "Feels like he's protecting you." Thunder rolled overhead, shaking the window panes. The clinic felt colder than usual when Rowan left. Mara cleaned the shepherd gently, careful not to touch the burn mark again. She'd seen symbols like that before, never on an animal, but in old case files from her brief months working at a state-run wildlife rehabilitation center. A handful of poachers had used coded brands to track stolen or smuggled animals. But this one felt different, more personal. She wrapped a blanket around him and sat beside the table, watching the rise and fall of his chest. "You've been through hell," she whispered. For the first time since his arrival, the shepherd closed his eyes. Midnight crept in slowly. Mara stayed in the clinic, partly because she didn't want to leave him alone, and partly because her own home felt too empty lately. Too full of memories she wasn't ready to deal with. Her father's silence after her mother died, the years she'd spent trying to outrun that loneliness through work, the fiancé who'd walked out because loving her felt like loving a locked door. The shepherd stirred. She sat up. "You okay?" He pushed himself off the table with surprising strength. Then, much to her shock, he limped toward the door, not aimlessly, deliberately. "Where are you going?" she asked softly. He nudged the door with his nose. "You want outside?" Another nudge. Mara hesitated. The storm had calmed but left the air heavy with damp pine and earth. She grabbed a rain jacket and unlatched the door. The shepherd bolted out, not away, but toward the back of the clinic, sprinting despite the pain in his leg. Mara followed, flashlight cutting through the dark. He stopped in the small fenced pasture behind the clinic and stared into the woods. Motionless, focused, the trees swayed like they were whispering secrets. "What is it?" she asked. He didn't move. She lifted the flashlight. The beam caught something on the edge of the tree lean. Something metallic, half hidden in the mud. She approached carefully. A collar, but not the kind you'd buy at a pet store. This was thick, reinforced leather with metal plating. When she turned it over, something clicked inside the lining, like a tiny mechanism struggling to activate. A tracking device? Her stomach twisted. She reached for it. The shepherd snarled sharply. Mara jerked back, heart hammering. Okay, I won't touch it." The dog stepped closer to the collar, lowered his head, and nudged it gently toward her with his nose. An offering, a warning, a plea. "You want me to take it?" she whispered. He held her gaze. She picked it up with both hands. Mud dripped from the edges. The inside was scorched, as if someone had forced it open with heat or explosives. A serial number was stamped into the metal plate. 870-6BX. Definitely not a breeder tag. A cold wind swept through the pasture, rattling the tin roof of the kennel shed. Mara hugged the collar to her chest. "We should go inside," she murmured. But when she looked back at the shepherd, he was already facing the woods again, ears perked, muscles trembling. "Someone's out there?" He didn't look at her, but she felt the answer settle in her bones. Yes, back in the clinic. Mara laid the collar on the stainless steel counter. She snapped photos with her phone, zooming in on the serial number. A faint voice inside her warned against it, against getting involved in something too big for someone running a modest rural clinic. But she'd never been good at standing aside. The shepherd lay near the examination table now, head resting on his paws. His eyes followed her quietly, as though waiting to see what she would do. Her phone buzzed. "Rowan, you still awake?" Storm knocked out some roads. "Be careful tonight, and keep your doors locked." She typed back. "I found something. Might be important. Come by in the morning." A long pause. Then, "Mara, don't do anything stupid." She didn't respond. Sometimes she wondered if Rowan cared too much, or if caring was just easier for him when it came in small, controlled doses. They'd grown close after her engagement fell apart. Dinners here and there, hints of something unspoken between them. But she wasn't ready and he didn't push. Maybe that was part of the problem. She set the phone down. The shepherd's eyes drifted closed. She checked the doors, dimmed the lights, and settled on the small couch in the office. Her head had barely touched the cushion when a sound snapped her awake. A metallic click. Soft, precise, like the sound of a lock being tested. She sat up slowly, heart thudding against her ribs. Another click, this time from the back door. The shepherd lifted his head. Mara whispered, "Stay." He didn't listen. He rose silently, his injured leg barely slowing him down, padding toward the hallway with a hunter's caution. Mara grabbed the flashlight and followed. The clinic was almost pitch black, moonlight filtering weakly through the storm clouds outside. Her breath fogged in the cool air. The back door rattled. Once, twice, then stopped. The shepherd lowered himself into a crouch, eyes fixed on the doorframe. A shadow passed behind the frosted glass. Too tall to be Rowan, too broad to be a stray traveler looking for shelter. Someone handled the lock again. Mara's pulse roared in her ears. Then, silence. No footsteps retreating. No shadow lingering. Just silence. The shepherd pressed against her leg. Tense but waiting. She backed away slowly and reached for the phone on the reception counter. Before she could dial Rowan's number, the clinic lights flickered. Once, twice, then died. The entire building plunged into darkness. Her breath caught in her throat. The shepherd's low growl rippled through the air. Outside, the wind groaned to pines. Mara whispered, "Someone cut the power." The shepherd moved closer, leaning against her, steady, protective. Another sound echoed from the back door. Not a click, not a rattle. A slow, deliberate knock. 3 taps. Measured, certain. Her skin erupted in goosebumps. She forced her voice out, barely a whisper. Why would anyone knock if they were trying to break in? She didn't expect an answer, but the shepherd stepped ahead of her, placing his body between her and the door, like he knew exactly who was standing on the other side, and exactly what they wanted. The knocking stopped after a few agonizing seconds. Whoever it was didn't try to lock again. Instead, footsteps moved across the gravel outside. Slow, heavy, not rushed, like the person knew all the time in the world belonged to them. Mara clutched the phone to her ear as she dialed Rowan. No signal. She switched spots, lifted her arm near the window, walked to the front door. Still no signal. The storm hadn't knocked the cell towers out. Someone else had. The shepherd nudged her leg firmly, urging her away from the doors, almost hurting her back toward the main room. "You're telling me not to go near the windows?" she whispered. His eyes flashed amber in the moonlight. He sat down next to her, body pressed against her shin like a shield. For a brief, foolish moment, she felt safer, until headlights swept across the front windows. A car, pulling into her lot. She dropped into a crouch, yanking the shepherd down beside her. The vehicle rolled to a stop. The glare illuminated the clinic sign, then cut off abruptly as the engine turned off. One door opened, closed. Footsteps, slow, approaching. Mara grabbed the nearest object, a metal stethoscope, and immediately realized how useless it would be. The shepherd stiffened. The footsteps grew closer, then stopped right outside the clinic door. A man's voice spoke on the other side. Calm, emotionless. "I know he's in there. Hand him over, Dr. Ellison." Mara froze. She didn't recognize the voice, but the shepherd did. A shiver rippled through him. His ears flattened. A broken whine escaped his throat, a sound full of dread and recognition. Mara swallowed hard. "No," she whispered so quietly she wasn't sure she said it or only thought it. "No, you're safe. I'm not giving you to anyone." The voice spoke again. "Open the door, or I'll open it for you." Her stomach dropped. She looked at the shepherd. The shepherd looked at her. And in that moment, she understood one thing with terrifying clarity. Whoever this man was, the shepherd wasn't running from him. He was running to warn someone about him. Someone like her. The door handle turned sharply. Metal strained. The hinges groaned. "Stay behind me," she whispered. She didn't know if she was talking to the dog or herself. Either way, the doorframe cracked, wood splintered, and the shepherd's pass, came crashing violently into her quiet rural life. The doorframe split with a deep, splintering crack that echoed to the clinic like a bone breaking. Mara staggered backward, pulling the shepherd with her, though he hardly needed pulling. His body was rigid, angled toward the door with a desperation that wasn't fear. It was something older, more primal, a memory made flesh. The man outside pushed again. Another crack. Wood sagged. The deadbolt bent. Rain whispered against the window. The distant storm preparing a second assault on the town. Mara grabbed the metal tray from the counter. Scalpels, syringes, scissors clattered loudly. She gripped a pair of surgical shears, so tight her knuckles whitened. She didn't know what she planned to do with them. The thought made her sick. She wasn't built for violence. But survival had a way of reshaping convictions. The shepherd pressed against her leg, growling low. His ears were pinned back, not in aggression, but in warning, almost as if he was telling her, "Don't fight him. Not directly. You won't win." The hinges tore loose. The door slammed inward, banging against the wall. A silhouette filled the entryway. Tall, thick jacket soaked with rain, shoulders too wide to belong to a casual passerby. A man who looked like he wasn't used to waiting for permission. The clinic's emergency lights flickered faintly, casting a sickly blue glow across the floor. It illuminated the stranger's boots first, mud-caked, industrial, the kind worn by someone who worked in remote fields or places where no one asked questions. He stepped inside. Mara raised the shears, breath shaking. "Don't come any closer." The man paused. His head turned slightly, assessing her the way someone might look at a loose hinge on a door, something noted but not threatening. "I'm not here for you," he said. His voice was the same one she'd heard through the door. Calm, controlled. "Put the dog on a leash and hand it to me," he continued. "I'll leave after that. You break into my clinic in the middle of the night and expect me to hand him over?" "Dr. Ellison," he said evenly, "I am trying to avoid hurting you. How do you know my name?" He ignored the question. His eyes drifted to the shepherd, and something in his face shifted. Recognition, yes, but tinged with irritation, maybe even disappointment. "You ran," he murmured to the dog. "Of course you did." The shepherd let out a low, rumbling growl that vibrated through the floor. The man stepped forward. The shepherd lunged. Only Mara's hands kept him from tearing across the room. His muscles were steel beneath his fur, and for a terrifying second she thought he would break free. The man didn't flinch. "Your loyalty is misplaced," he said softly. "You always were a stubborn one." Mara's heart dropped. Always? He knew this dog. Not casually. Not recently. The man reached slowly into his jacket. Mara's throat tightened. "Don't." He pulled something out. Not a gun. A remote. Small. Matte black. A single worn button in the center. The shepherd froze. His growl died instantly, replaced by a strangled sound Mara had never heard from an animal, a mixture of fear and fury, like he was preparing to run and knowing he couldn't. "No," she whispered. "What is that?" The man spoke to the shepherd, not to her. "You understand what will happen if I press this?" Mara stepped in front of the dog. "If that device hurts him." "It's not a shock collar," the man said flatly. "It's a locator. Anyway." He nodded toward the collar on the counter. "You found it. That complicates things." "Explain," she demanded. He looked at her with mild amusement. "You don't want the explanation. You want a villain you can hate. And I'm convenient. Give me a reason why I shouldn't call the sheriff." "You already tried," he said. "Your phone's dead. I jammed the signal before I knocked." Her stomach twisted. Who jammers a phone signal in Briar Hollow? People who can't risk attention. He lifted the remote slightly. "Step aside." Mara tightened her grip on the shears. "No." For the first time, something like disappointment flickered in his eyes. "You don't understand what you're protecting." "Then tell me." He exhaled, long and annoyed, like a teacher repeating a lesson to someone who refused to listen. "He isn't a rescue," the man said. "He isn't lost. He isn't abused. Everything you think you're saving him from is a story you invented in your head." "A beat." "He belongs to me." The shepherd made a sharp barking sound, one of pure, violent refusal. The man lifted the remote higher. "We're out of time." And then the shepherd moved. He shoved Mara sideways with his body, hard enough that she stumbled into the wall. The man reacted instantly. Tensing to press the button, the clinic lights surged back on, not the faint emergency glow. Full power. The man's eyes snapped upward. Surprised. Then a voice thundered from the entrance. "Drop it." Rowan, hat dripping, gun raised, stand solid. Rainwater pooled behind him from how quickly he'd force his way to the broken doorway. Mara exhaled sharply, a sound bordering on a sob. The stranger didn't turn around. Deputy Hale, late to the party. Rowan stiffened. "I know who you are, and you're under arrest." "Arrest assumes wrongdoing," the man replied calmly. "You don't know what I'm doing. I know you broke into a clinic and threatened a civilian. A misunderstanding." "Drop the device." Rowan barked. The man didn't drop it. He flicked his eyes briefly toward Mara. "You should be more careful who you trust." Then everything happened at once. The shepherd lunged. The man tensed. Rowan fired. The bullet ripped through the remote, shattering it. Sparks burst across the floor. The man swore sharply, more in frustration than pain, and dove behind the counter. Rowan sprinted forward, taking cover behind the reception desk. The shepherd leapt in front of Mara again, trembling with anger or fear. She couldn't tell. The stranger vanished through the back hallway. Rowan shouted, "Stay here," and chased after him. Mara didn't listen. She ran. The hallway echoed with the pounding of footsteps, Rowan's boots and the man's heavier strides ahead of him. A door slammed open. Metal clanged. A crash erupted from the storage room. By the time Mara reached it, Rowan was already inside, breathing hard, flashlights sweeping the shelves. "He's gone," Rowan muttered. Back windows shattered. Rain sprayed in from a small, jagged opening. It wasn't big enough for an average person to slip through easily. Certainly not someone with shoulders like the man in the jacket. But he was gone. What did he want? Rowan asked without turning. Mara hesitated. The shepherd bumped her leg again. Rowan straightened slowly. "Mara, what did he want?" She held his gaze. "The dog." Rowan's expression darkened. "Why?" "I don't know." But she did. Or she was starting to. There was history between that man and the shepherd. Deep, ugly history etched into the brand on the dog's paw and the fear in his eyes. Rowan holstered his gun. "I'm taking you both to the station. We can sort it out there." "No. Mara." "He'll come back," she said. "If we stay put, we're sitting targets." "Then you're suggesting we go where?" "I don't know. Anywhere but here." "That's not a plan." "It's safer than waiting." Rowan pinched the bridge of his nose. "You're shaken. You're not thinking clearly." "Neither are you," she snapped. Silence thickened. The shepherd nudged her hand gently, sensing the tension. Rowan's expression softened. Okay, we'll figure this out together. But we need backup." "You think he's working alone?" Mara whispered. Rowan didn't answer. The silence was answer enough. Back in the main room, Rowan inspected the broken door and shoved a heavy cabinet in front of it. Mara packed the clinic bag she used for emergencies: bandages, sedatives, tools, medicine. Her hands shook. The shepherd paced, restless, glancing toward every window like he expected shadows to peel themselves off the night and step inside. When Rowan returned, he looked grim. "We have one problem." "Just one?" Mara asked dryly. "Our patrol cars use GPS tracking. If we leave town, my location pings the station. That's good in normal circumstances. But if someone taps into police channels, someone with a signal jammer, they can find us," Mara finished. Rowan nodded. "So we take your personal truck," she said. Rowan hesitated. "It's parked behind the diner." "That's only 2 blocks. 2 dark blocks." The storm wind howled outside, rattling the loose gutter on the roof. Mara swallowed. "We walk." "No," Rowan said firmly. "I walk. You stay here with the dog." "You can't go alone." "I'm armed." "You're not. If that man comes back." "He isn't after me." Rowan's jaw flexed. "I'm not leaving you unprotected." "Then we go together." "You're impossible. You're stubborn." The shepherd huffed, as if agreeing with both of them. Finally, Rowan cursed under his breath. "Fine, but stay close to me. And stay quiet." They moved toward the back door. The rain had eased into a soft drizzle, fog curling low across the gravel. The town slept under a blanket of clouds, streetlights flickering weakly. Rowan peered out first. Clear. They stepped into the night. The shepherd took point instinctively, moving like a shadow. Every few steps, he glanced back to ensure Mara kept up. Halfway down the alley, Mara whispered, "Rowan, thank you." "For showing up?" he said without looking back. The power came back on. "I knew something was wrong." She hesitated. "You saved us." Rowan's voice softened. "You matter to me. Of course I came." Mara's breath hitched faintly, not from fear. But she didn't reply. Couldn't. Not now. Not with danger thickening the night around them. They reached the street corner. A gust of wind ripped down the block. The shepherd froze. Rowan instantly pulled Mara behind him, hand on his gun. "What is it?" she whispered. The dog stared across the street, every muscle rigid. Then she saw it. A figure standing beneath the flickering street lamp. Still, waiting. That's not him, Rowan murmured. Too small, too thin. The figure stepped forward. A young woman, barely 20, hood-drenched, arms wrapped tightly around herself. She looked terrified. "Help," she called out weakly. "Please, someone, please." Mara stepped forward, but Rowan grabbed her arm. "Wait." The woman stumbled closer. "Please, he's coming. He's coming and I don't know where else to go." Her voice cracked. Rain dripped from her chin. Mara's chest tightened. "Rowan," she's scared out of her mind. "I know," he whispered, "which is why something's off." The woman reached the curb, trembling. Her eyes landed on Mara. "You have the dog," she whispered. Mara's blood ran cold. Rowan lifted his gun. "Stop right there." The woman nodded slowly. Then she said something that made the night tilt sideways. "He's after both of you now. And if you stay in this town, you'll all be dead by morning." The shepherd growled, not at her, at something behind her. Mara lifted the flashlight. The beam swept across the street, across buildings, across the dark, then caught movement. A shadow, tall, deliberate, stepping out from between two buildings. The same man. The woman spun, gasping. "No, no, you said I gave you time." "You did," the man called calmly, "but you failed your part." Rowan grabbed Mara's arm. "Run." The shepherd lunged. The stranger lifted something metallic, larger than the last device. A pulse rippled through the air. The shepherd cried out, a pained, guttural sound, and collapsed to his side. Mara screamed. Rowan fired his gun. The man ducked behind a truck. The woman bolted into the alley. Chaos exploded. Mara fell to her knees beside the shepherd. "No, no, stay with me. Please, God, stay with me." His body trembled uncontrollably, eyes glassy, legs convulsing. Rowan grabbed her shoulders. "We have to move. I'm not leaving him. You'll die out here." She looked down at the shepherd, and as tears blurred her vision, he did something impossible. He forced his head up and nudged her hand, not to comfort her, to tell her to go. "Rowan," she choked. "Pick him up." "Mara." "He's coming. Pick him up." Rowan didn't argue again. He scooped the shepherd into his arms, straining under the weight, and together they sprinted into the alley as gunshots cracked behind them. They didn't stop running. Not when the man shouted. Not when more shadows moved in the fog. Not even when the shepherd went limp in Rowan's arms. Because Mara understood something now. This wasn't a man hunting a dog. It was an operation, hunting a witness. And that witness had just collapsed in her arms. Fog clung to the hills as Rowan and Mara pushed deeper into the outskirts of Briar Hollow, following the narrow dirt path behind the abandoned grain silos. The shepherd's limp weight in Rowan's arms made every step brutal. Mara kept pace, breath sharp, fear carving lines across her face. The night swallowed sound except for the hiss of wet gravel beneath their boots and the ragged breath that told her Rowan couldn't carry the dog much longer. "We can stop up there," Mara said, pointing to a low structure ahead, an old storm shelter jutting from the hillside. "My grandfather used it years ago when the sirens didn't work." Rowan grunted. "If it has 4 walls and a roof, it's good enough." The shepherd let out a faint groan. Mara's heartbeat lurched. "He's fading," she whispered. The storm shelter groaned as Rowan shouldered the rusted metal door. It swung open with a scream of hinges that echoed down the dark, damp stairwell. Rowan descended first, gun raised, flashlight sweeping over concrete walls slick with old moisture. Nothing moved. "It's clear," he said. They laid the shepherd on the cold floor. The flashlight's beam trembled in Mara's hand. His chest rose shallowly. His pupils twitched. His legs spasmed again. "What did they do to you?" she whispered, fingers trembling as she checked his pulse. Rowan scanned the room. What was that device? That wasn't a shock pulse. "No," Mara said, shaking her head. "It was neurological. Something targeting implanted hardware." Rowan froze. "Implanted what?" Mara looked at him, sick realization knotting her stomach. Rowan, there's something in him. Something metal. She unzipped her clinic bag with frantic hands. Tools clattered. Rowan crouched beside her. "You're going to operate here?" "I just need to stabilize him, not open him fully." She found the sedative vial, held it to flashlight. "Small dose." "I don't know if that device triggered seizures or failsafe." Rowan frowned. "Failsafe for what?" Mara didn't answer. Not aloud. She didn't need to. His brand. His reaction to the remote. The locator's story that didn't match the shepherd's terror. The man's words rang through her again. "You don't understand what you're protecting. He belongs to me." "No, not belongs. Owned." Mara steadied the syringe, inserted the needle into the shepherd's shoulder. His muscles tensed but eased slowly as the sedative took hold. Rowan knelt the dog's head, brushing wet fur from his eyes. "Hang in there, buddy." The shepherd blinked. Mara's chest tightened. He was still fighting, still trying to stay awake for them. She stroked his muzzle gently. "He's strong," she whispered. "Too strong for a normal dog to withstand that shock. Whatever he went through before it wasn't ordinary." Rowan's expression hardened. "Tell me what you're thinking. No sugarcoating." Mara swallowed. He may have been trained for military or covert operations. Rowan let that sit for several heartbeats. "Then why chase him?" he finally said. "If he belonged to them, why doesn't he go back?" "Because," Mara said softly, "whatever they did to him, he remembers." And he escaped. Rowan drew in a breath through his teeth. "Jesus." "And now they're trying to erase the evidence." Mara checked the dog's side, pressing lightly along his ribs. When she reached just above the stomach, he twitched sharply. "There," she murmured. "Something's lodged deep." Rowan angled the flashlight. "Is that a scar?" A thin, curved mark ran under the fur, almost invisible. Surgical. Intentional. The kind of incision done by someone who didn't want it discovered. Mara pressed again. The shepherd tensed. "There's definitely something implanted," she said. "Metal. Maybe a chip. Maybe more." Rowan stood and moved to the door, peering through the crack. "We can't stay long. They'll sweep the whole town." "Then we need answers now," Mara said. The shepherd's eyes moved to her hand. He trusted her. He'd chosen her. Her throat tightened. She ran her fingers along his cheek, whispering, "I'll be careful. I promise." Then she began unpacking sterile blades, alcohol wipes, gauze. Rowan turned. "Mara, you're not actually going to cut him open right now. I'm going to expose just enough to see what's inside," she said. "If it's a tracker, I can remove it. If it's something worse. Like a detonation failsafe," she said quietly, "or a cognitive override device. I've heard rumors, animals used for recon, sensory mapping, behavioral control. Some programs went off book years ago." Rowan rubbed a hand across his jaw. "You're telling me they wired a dog." The shepherd lay curled at the far end of the exam table, trembling, not from pain, but from something older, deeper. The rain outside the rural clinic tapped a steady rhythm against the metal roof, a sound Dr. Mara Ellison usually found comforting. Tonight, it only sharpened the unease rising in her chest. The dog's eyes followed her every move, too alert, too knowing, like he was waiting for her to discover something he'd spent years running from. Mara had seen trauma before, but never looked like this. As she lifted his paw to begin the exam, a faint, burned-in symbol caught her eye and her heartbeat stumbled. If you enjoy stories like this, staying connected helps me keep creating them. Thank you. I'm telling you he's not just a dog. The shepherd blinked again, eyes shimmering with something that looked almost human. Rowan knelt beside him, touching his paw. Then they picked the wrong town to come to. Mara cleaned the fur as gently as possible, revealing the scar. The blade glinted beneath the flashlight. "I need you to hold him steady," she whispered. Rowan positioned himself at the dog's shoulders, one hand under his neck. Mara made a shallow incision. The shepherd jerked but didn't yelp. His pain tolerance was unreal. She cut a little deeper. A metallic click echoed faintly. Rowan stiffened. "What was that?" Mara's breath hitched. Something moved. She spread the incision carefully. Her flashlight beam trembled. Then she saw it. Not a chip, not a tracker. Something larger. Cylindrical. Matte steel. Her stomach lurched. "Oh my God," she whispered. "This is military-grade hardware." Rowan leaned closer. "What does it do?" Mara swallowed hard. "Rowan, this isn't tracker." "What is it?" "It's a data capsule." Rowan blinked. "Meaning?" "It holds information." Rowan's expression darkened. "What kind of information?" "Sensitive. Classified. The kind you hide inside something or someone. You don't expect to survive long enough to reveal it." Rowan exhaled slowly. "So he escaped with their secrets." "And they're trying to get them back," Mara said. A faint beep sounded inside the device. Mara's pulse spiked. "Rowan, turn off the flashlight." "What? Now?" The light snapped off. Darkness swallowed the shelter. A red LED blinked faintly inside the shepherd's side. Rowan whispered, "Is that?" "A trigger light." Mara breathed. "It's armed." The beeping grew louder. Rowan drew his gun, breath steady, but eyes wide. "Tell me what to do." Mara moved swiftly, fingers trembling as she applied pressure around the capsule. "If they activated the failsafe remotely," she whispered, "this isn't just a recovery mission." Rowan's grip tightened on his gun. "It's a cleanup." "Rowan, this thing could contain evidence of illegal experiments, covert operations, black site activity, anything." The beeping accelerated. Then, silence. The LED went dark. Mara froze. Rowan didn't breathe. The shepherd didn't move. For a long moment, the only sound was rain tapping faintly outside. Rowan whispered, "Is it done?" She swallowed. "Yes." It shut down. Either the EMP from the device earlier partially fried it, or it malfunctioned on its own. Rowan exhaled shakily. "We need to get out." Mara steadied herself. "Hold him." She worked quickly, cutting deeper, careful not to rupture the capsule. After several tense minutes, she removed the steel cylinder and set it on a gauze pad. The shepherd let out a long, exhausted breath. Mara stitched the incision as quickly and neatly as she could. Only when she finished did she exhale. Rowan lifted the capsule. "We take this to the state police. Or federal. Or..." A voice from the top of the stairwell cut him off. "You're not taking it anywhere." The silhouette was unmistakable. The same man, dripping from the rain, gun in hand, eyes locked on the capsule. Mara shoved Rowan behind a row of crates, heart slamming against her ribs. The shepherd struggled to rise. "No," Mara whispered, pushing him down. "You can't fight." The man descended slowly, methodically. "You shouldn't have removed it," he said. "Now you've made him useless." "Useless?" Mara hissed. "He's alive." He was never supposed to be alive. Rowan raised his gun from behind the crates. "Drop yours." The man didn't flinch. "Deputy Hale, you're way out of your depth." Rowan steadied his aim. "I said drop it." The man sighed, almost bored. This is what happens when civilians interfere with operations above their clearance. "You tortured a dog," Mara snapped. The man's eyes flicked to her. "He's not a dog. Not anymore. We enhance his cognition beyond standard parameters. Behavioral augmentation, sensory training, memory imprinting." "You turned him into a weapon," Mara said. The man shrugged. "A tool." The shepherd growled weakly. "Ah," the man said, "still loyal. You see the problem." He lifted the gun. Rowan fired first. The shot ricocheted off the stairwell rail. The man ducked, returning fire. Sparks burst from the concrete wall. Mara shielded the shepherd's body with her own. Rowan shouted, "Mara, move!" She dragged the shepherd behind an overturned metal table. Bullets clanged against it. The man stepped deeper into the shelter, firing in controlled bursts. "We don't need the dog," he called out. "Just the capsule. Hand it over, and maybe you'll walk out alive." "Not happening," Rowan growled. "Then you're choosing the wrong side," the man said. He was built to obey. He wasn't built to feel. Mara glared over the table, then explained why he chose to run. The man paused, a beat of silence. Then, He didn't run. We let him go. Mara's breath hitched. You're lying. The man smirked. Am I? Think. You found him on a roadside, uninjured, wearing a collar designed to be discovered, covered in enough clues to make you curious. Rowan blinked. You planted him? We placed him, the man corrected. He carried information without knowing it. Information we wanted retrieved. Mara's chest clenched. You used me. Not you, he said. Anyone with a conscience would have picked him up. But you, he tilted his head. You gave him more care than we predicted. And then you removed the capsule. That was not part of the plan. Rowan aimed again. Why plant him at all? Because we needed to know whether the failsafe would activate after extended field exposure, and whether emotional bonding would compromise his obedience training. Mara felt something inside her break. You experimented on him twice. He's not your concern anymore, the man said. Give me the capsule. No, Mara whispered. The shepherd pushed himself to his feet, shaking, wounded, but standing. The man's eyes widened. No, stay down. That's an order. The shepherd stepped in front of Mara, protecting her. The man exhaled sharply. I see. So the imprint took after all. Mara frowned. Imprint. He bonded with the first person who showed him mercy. The man said, his programming adapted. Rowan muttered, programming? He keeps calling him an object. The shepherd bared his teeth. The man aimed at Mara. Rowan fired. The shot hit the man's shoulder. He dropped to one knee with a grunt, gun slipping from his grip. The shepherd lunged forward despite his injury, teeth snapping inches from the man's arm. Mara grabbed the shepherd's collar and pulled him back. No, no, you'll rip your stitches. The man pressed a hand to his wound, wincing. You're making a mistake. You can't protect him forever. Others will come. Rowan approached cautiously, gun still raised. Not if we hand over the evidence to federal oversight. The man laughed, short, mirthless. Oversight? You think this program exists on paperwork? Rowan's jaw clenched. Then we expose it. You expose nothing, the man said. You have no proof. Mara lifted the capsule. We have this. His smirk faded. You don't know what's inside, he said. You can't decode it. Maybe not, Mara said, but someone can. A long silence weighed heavily in the damp air. Finally, the man slumped back against the wall. Then, finish it. Kill me. You'll be doing me a favor. Rowan exchanged a glance with Mara. She shook her head. No, she whispered. You don't get an easy end. Rowan handcuffed the man, dragged him to the base of the stairs, and radioed the only federal contact he trusted, a distant office. While outside local corruption, it would take hours for them to arrive, hours they would have to hide, hours to pray no other members of the man's team came looking. When Rowan returned, Mara sat beside the shepherd, head leaning gently against his. He saved me, she whispered. Rowan knelt beside them. He chose you. Mara brushed tears from her cheek. He's not a weapon, not a tool. He's just a soul who's been hurt more than anyone should. The shepherd rested his head in her lap. Rowan sighed softly. What happens when federal agents arrive? They'll want him too. I know, she whispered. We might lose him. Mara swallowed. Then we fight for him. We tell him what was done. We prove he deserves a life. Rowan's voice softened. And if they say no, Mara's eyes shimmered. Then I'll run, with him, as far as I can. Rowan nodded slowly. Then I'm going with you. Silence settled. Heavy, real, full of everything they couldn't say aloud. Mara leaned down and whispered into the shepherd's ear. You're safe now. I won't let anyone take you again. The storm quieted outside. Morning crept slowly over Briar Hollow. And for the first time in a very long time, the shepherd closed his eyes not out of exhaustion, but out of trust. A quiet, powerful peace filled the shelter, and lingered long after the chaos faded.